The PlayStation had 2 official Evangelion games, but one was a visual novel and the other, Mahjong. It's slim pickings for you Evangelion fans. Thankfully, there's Love and Destroy. It's as close to an Evangelion simulator as you're gonna get, and although it was only released in Japan, it's certainly playable in English. You're a teenage boy in Tokyo when an angel appears above the city. Right before you're struck by a car, you're teleported to a facility and told to pilot a mech with the help of 3 teenage girls. You got Rei, Asuka, and Kurapika. The angels you take on are pretty inventive, which is nice. This boy's fast. This one's gross and really annoying to fight. The point is variety. Lots of variety. The 3 mechs you can choose are all very different too. One's super fast and kinda weak, another's medium, and one's slow but powerful. Before every mission, your little robot egg will tell you what enemy you'll be facing and which girl/mech it recommends to take. Though you don't have to listen to it. It often yells at you to hurry up, so feel free to be rude. Each level features a different angel, which requires a different strategy, which is true to the show. The levels themselves take place in the suburbs, city, forest. You get some variety here with lots of destruction. So much destruction that the game often has trouble keeping up with the frame rate. As you win battles, you'll level up and get closer to the girls. There's, lots of fan service. I especially like the styling of the game. Some really cool artistic choices done, like the girls' transparent faces appearing over the UI. Gives the game an identity, a specific look to it. There's also plenty of decently done anime cutscenes. It's all pretty easy to follow along even if you don't know Japanese. Much of the text is in English as well, so you'll get the basics down fine. All in all, the game's super unique and I think you should give it a try.
Delete program start.
Omega Boost was a big surprise. Where do I even begin with this game? From the graphics with all the particle effects, the 90s rock soundtrack, the FMV with CGI and real actors and sets, and the solid 60 FPS frame rate, not to mention the mission variety and the hyper-fast load times. There's really not much to dislike here. I guess the worst thing you could say about it is that the combat can be a little repetitive. You pilot the Omega Boost, a mech that can travel through time. With this mech, you need to stop an artificial intelligence from destroying humanity. You'll fly around in space and on planets, fighting small ships, big ships, asteroids, and other mechs. It's like a mixture of Zone of the Enders and Panzer Dragoon, which, funny enough, the lead designer had previously worked on Panzer Dragoon. Omega Boost was developed by Polyphony Digital. These are the Gran Turismo guys. This is the only game they made that wasn't about cars. I guess cars are kinda like mechs. Not really though, I don't know why I said that. Anyway, I had never heard about this game before, and I was looking for mech games to explore on the PlayStation, and I kept seeing Omega Boost. And you know what? Omega Boost is fucking rad. It's not only a great mech game, it's a great PlayStation game. But do you know what I mean when I say that? I'm trying to say it's a good game in its own right, even if you don't like mech games. Though a few things keep it from being a must-own PlayStation game, but I'll get to that in a bit. At its release, it came out with above average reviews, but I think it's only gotten better with age. It seems to have developed this small cult following. The game opens with a charming FMV that shows Manhattan and Tokyo being destroyed and you being sent back in time with the Omega Boost. I love how it uses real people and sets in the opening intro. I wish there was more of it throughout the game. The game itself looks great. It only dipped below 60 FPS a couple times, and it has this almost, I don't know how to describe it, like a cel-shaded look to it. The animations and everything is so smooth and pleasant to look at. I also dig the particle effects. I will say though, the reason it can do this is because there's not much else happening on screen. Even when you're on a planet, there's just you, the enemies, and the ground. The game's rendering your character, the enemy characters, and some particle effects as the space you're in. There's no real physical levels to speak of, so I gotta take some points off for that. It's also an incredibly simple game. You enter a level, beat some guys, sometimes a boss, get a score and grading, then move on. That's not bad, but it's not especially meaty either. It razor focuses on what it does well, so there's lots of enemy variety, and it does a good job holding your attention. You zip around with your mech, and you can spam dumb bullets or lock on and fire some homing missiles. Your third attack is a special that needs to be charged. Once it's full, your mech will boost through any nearby enemies, dealing massive damage. There's also a lock-on system that lets you strafe, and you can stop in mid-air. All in all, it feels really nice to control, but you might get a little vertigo. It's not an on-rail shooter game like the Panzer series, but it does feel familiar. So if you like those, I highly recommend it. Comfy, slow-paced, enthralling, those are some of the adjectives I'd use to describe Front Mission 3. The Front Mission series used to be a mildly successful turn-based RPG series on the PlayStation and PlayStation 2, before Square Enix dragged it, kicking and screaming, into an alleyway and shot it in the head with Front Mission Evolved. And left alive? Watch your mouth, we don't talk about that in this household. Front Mission 3 is Fire Emblem with mechs, and somehow more lovemaking. Unlike Fire Emblem, however, there's no loading between the tactical view and the combat animations, which instantly makes it a better game. You begin the game playing as 2 test pilots, when a mysterious explosion occurs during a training exercise. Thus begins a complex narrative involving 2 intertwining stories, of which you'll swap between. This plot includes a lot of conspiracy, intrigue, characterization, and if you like mature stories that treat you like an adult, I super recommend it. If you're a baby and need to be repeatedly told what's happening in the story every 5 minutes, then I recommend the Fire Emblem. Nope, don't say it. It's 2024. We're being nice this year. Anyway, my favorite part of Front Mission 3 is using the virtual internet to read diplomacy reports on government websites' bulletin boards. It's very exciting. Second to that is customizing my mechs with all manner of heads, limbs, weapons. You get the point. It's kind of a really weird game, but in a good way. Joking aside, this is a game you sink your teeth into on a rainy Sunday. It has a hard-to-place vibe to it, like sinking into a beanbag chair. It wants to pull you in and make you relax. I've only played Front Mission 4, and it's one of my favorite PS2 games, so I'm a little embarrassed to say I never played 3 or 5. 3 is generally considered to be the best in the series too, so it's on my backlog. 5 was only released in Japan, but it has a full English translation. 1 and 2 also recently received the full remake treatment, so definitely check those out. And Front Mission 3, this game, is also next in line for a remake. I'm very curious to see how it turns out.
X1 Alpha, you got yourself a code 7.
This is the LAPD.
Nice work, Rookie. Now where was I? Oh yeah, Big LA. Mutants, gangsters, chem-lords, whacked out cyborgs, high-tech, this and that. We got it. Remember, kid, serve, protect, survive.
X1 Alpha, 2 lone in progress. 14 officers down, need assistance. Code 77.
This is the LAPD. Put down your... Thank you for your support.
Remember when EA was cool? Makes me sad. Anyway, Future Cop LAPD greets you with an awesome theme song. The opening cutscene is pretty rad too. This game oozes style.
14 officers down, need assistance. Over.
Anyway, it starts off with a video tutorial, which I might actually prefer over playing the tutorial. I hate having control restricted, so it just annoys me. Okay, player, now press X to jump. Okay, player, now press square to shoot. Okay, player. My point is, just give me the info and get out of my face. I'm here to play. Speaking of playing, you play, get it, as a cop piloting a mech, a mecha cop. Your job is keeping LA safe from criminals and anyone unfortunate enough to get in your way. That's mostly civilians and innocents, I'm gonna be honest, and lots of collateral damage, but that's the price I'm willing to pay to keep these streets free from undesirables. The entire game's got a big RoboCop theme to it, and the satire is subtle enough to be effective and fun. This is helped by your dispatch, who will guide you through the missions. She's very well written and fun to listen to. Before every level, she'll tell you about the mission as a fun little cutscene plays, going over the level itself.
The perp is Xerxes Zeno. You know, the king of designer drugs. His new batch of Extreme Z is killer, literally. No customer complaints. They're all dead. Exercise extreme caution.
You can then choose your weapons and off you go. The game's isometric but pulled directly above and behind. It makes it pretty easy to move around the levels, which often have multiple layers of height to them. The game will also zoom in and out automatically when the level design calls for it, which, coupled with a mostly solid 60 FPS, keeps the action smooth. The game looks simple, but it's colorful and has lots of effects always popping off. It's got a great clean look to it, and in my opinion, is how PlayStation games should look. Although you can choose your weapons and even pick some up in the levels themselves, you can only use one mech, though it can swap between a walking mode and like a motorcycle mode. I don't know, it's a fast mode anyway. As you go through the mission, you'll often run into side missions. They're fun, but not mandatory. Don't want to rescue hostages? Don't. The game's also got a password function for saves, so you can share your saves with your friends. If I had some, I'd definitely do that. The game's also, probably, the first ever MOBA. Besides the campaign, which has split-screen co-op through the entire campaign, yeah. There's also a MOBA competitive mode. Each player has a base they gotta defend. It'll spit out mobs that auto-attack the enemy's base. The game even has turrets like towers. It's literally a friggin' MOBA, not a proto-MOBA or a MOBA prototype. It's just League of Legends, which might be a negative actually now that I think about it.
This is an outpost. Claim it, and you've got another base. But outposts cost points. Earn points by claiming turrets and destroying enemy units. Destroy the enemy walker, earn points, and send him back to his base crying like a baby. Remember? Hover tanks, turrets, points, crying. Beautiful. Now, if you're playing by yourself, you'll go up against Sky Captain, a lethal combination of smarts and...
Brahma 2 is down.
Brahma Force, not to be confused with Brahman, is a first-person mech action game and the spiritual successor to the Kilik series. And if you're like me, that doesn't clarify things at all. Okay, so you pilot this low-tech mech around a colony that's been attacked. It's weirdly kinda like Alien or System Shock in terms of story setup. Anyway, the game is super low poly, but looks pretty nice. The levels have fun effects, like your shell casings being dispensed when using the rifle, and skyboxes when you're in the larger environments. Though they're a bit wonky, so be careful you don't get vertigo. I really appreciate just how wide this FOV is. Unlike a lot of console shooters, Brahma makes it easy to see everything in front of you. Even when enemies approach you from the rear, your mech will sound a little beep alarm to notify you of their presence. You can then confirm their location via the minimap. These small but effective systems both work with the gameplay and make you feel like you're piloting a mech, which is important when I'm talking about mech games. The controls are intuitive as well, with the ability to look up and down, strafe, and move side to side. Though your mech does control a little floaty, might be the right word. It's nothing too bad, and it does lend a sense of weight to the player. Thanks to this, you can dodge and position yourself when fighting enemy mechs. For weapons, you have a wide selection that you can swap with the select button. They all have pros and cons and different levels of effectiveness as it pertains to the enemy. They also have ammo, which you can find from pickups scattered around the levels, and enemies drop them once defeated. In addition to this, you have a shield you can activate with Circle. As far as I can tell, when it's on, you're basically invincible, though it's on a timer and will regenerate once used. Similarly is your jump, which acts in the same manner. You'll use your jump a lot, since this game has a surprising amount of platforming. As you go through the levels, the game will often point out where you need to go via the plethora of FMV cutscenes. This game loves cutscenes, but luckily they're both enjoyable and take up no loading time. The game overall is incredibly smooth, which I know I harp on a lot, but it's important. As an example, I've been playing the Final Fantasy VII Remake, and it's got these micro stutters that just drive me nuts. None of that here, thankfully. And if you want mech games on the PS2, check out my video here. And if you want even more mech videos, oh my god, check out K-Nova. He has a great channel that covers all mech games. You can find both of our videos on the screen now. If you do check them out, tell him I said hi. See ya!